All right, so we got a lot of big stuff going on as usual. Getting right into it, Canada's up to 91,374 confirmed cases, 7,305 dead. Alberta's down to 400 active cases. We did have 34 new yesterday, but the government did just recently allow anybody to go get a test, so that probably explains some of the increase. The good news is, though, is that we're down to 400 active cases. Now, yesterday we were still in the 500s, which means that they must have done some sort of an audit of some sort of the numbers, because I don't think that, I mean, we were having 40, 50 people a day recover, and yesterday we had like well over like 100. I think we had like 150, almost 200. So they must have done some sort of, I don't know, maybe that many people recovered, but it just seems unlikely that like triple the amount that have been recovering on average just did in the average day, but I'm not sure. Um, Nonetheless, it's not really an issue. Regardless, we're down to 400 cases, which is a good sign. Um, Calgary has 309 of them, and the point I wanted to bring up as far as Calgary goes is that whenever you talk about reopening, there's all these people saying, "Oh, we can't open Calgary. There'll be this massive second wave, and we're then sure enough, we're all gonna die then." Don't you know we will all die if we reopen Calgary, and yet there was pretty decent sized protest yesterday in Calgary. No social distancing tickets given out. None of those idiots that are worried that think we're all going to die if we reopen Calgary complaining on Twitter or on Reddit or wherever they complain. None of them whatsoever complaining, which is just, it seems like just like the millionth piece of evidence that just proves that the people who want to keep things closed are just complete and utter idiots or ideologues or both. Uh, and that includes the government people too, including the Kenny government, the people in there too. Like Kenny always hints around, oh, it's not nearly as bad as what we think, and all this, which he's right about. But yet we're keeping things closed for another 2 months. And don't tell me, oh, we're in phase one. What are you talking about? No, as far as I'm concerned, until things are completely reopened, aside from nursing homes and anybody who wants to sit at home and cower in fear, we are not reopened until that happens. We are not reopened if you have to go to a business and you have to, before you go in, before you go out, you got to wash your hands or have hand sanitizer and be forced to wear a mask and social distance still. No, we are not reopened under those circumstances. We are reopened when people can voluntarily wear masks if they want to, when people can wash their hands and wear hand sanitizer if they want. And there's no evidence that we have to do that in the first place. People saying, "Oh, you're going to get people killed if you don't wash your hands and be forced to wear a mask and all this." I do believe you should wash your hands, but I don't think you should have OCD about it and carry around hand sanitizer and all that kind of crap that you see from a lot of people. There is a happy medium, and that's something that I really can't stand about people, is that there is a happy medium. And it's what I've been saying all along. Like I said with the government, is that, oh, before they said, oh, masks don't work, you shouldn't wear a mask. And I said, no, masks, they do work a little bit, but they're not the end all be all saviors of the world going to stop it single handedly. And now it's, oh, people should be forced to wear a mask. And again, these people have no credibility whatsoever, like none whatsoever. So that's the thing I really wanted to mention, is that why can, like, how can people like have these contradictions in their head? I really don't get it. Like, it's such an obvious contradiction, it's not even funny. Um, it's literally like synonymous with contradiction, these people's beliefs, that they're perfectly fine with thousands of people congregating in very small spaces in hundreds of cities across North America. They're perfectly fine with that. But they're not perfectly fine with someone opening their small business where like 5 people work or 10 people work. They're not okay with it. Gyms reopening with 50 people inside. God forbid we have 50 people in a somewhat crowded area, not even that crowded. But if thousands want to gather, then that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Not only that, a lot of them are committing illegal activity. So again, the glaring contradictions are really, really bothering me. I mean, there already were glaring contradictions, but now it's so obvious it's not even funny. Up until about a week ago, you were selfish and the worst thing ever, and Doug Ford and all these idiots were calling. I mean, not just Doug Ford. I don't mean to pick on just Doug Ford, but Again, he's a conservative guy. He deserves to be called out because I don't think he's handling it very well. I don't think anyone's handling it very well, at least in Canada. And they say, oh, the people gathering in the park in Toronto, it's the worst thing ever. And now a week later, you're the worst thing ever if you think people shouldn't be allowed to go loot and commit illegal activity. Like the contradictions are not even funny. And speaking of that, Spencer Fernando had a pretty viral tweet yesterday saying the same Canadian politicians that threatened to use their immense authority to punish regular law abiding Canadians for being lockdown violators are now seemingly afraid to even mildly confront people destroying property and violating the law. Mind boggling hypocrisy. Now, basically, the rant I just said basically summed that up. That you're the worst thing ever if you wanted to go out and protest. You've seen those people in Alberta. There's the guy sitting alone, like nobody within 20 feet of him, it seemed. And the cops, drug him off like this was, Nazi Germany. And people saying, oh, rightfully so, he's endangering people, like blah, 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 blah. Even though he wasn't endangering people, almost everyone there was social distancing, at least from what I've seen in the videos. And now it's so, who cares about social distancing? We have a social BS, social justice warrior cause to deal with. And yeah, that's basically what I wanted to bring up there. But again, it's just mind-boggling hypocrisy. He puts it in a very good way. Um, this is from Clay Travis. Now, again, he points out that he links to a story, actually. He says, Monday virus positivity. Italian doctors argue viral load of the virus is weakened substantially, no longer possesses threat in country. Cases have virtually disappeared in Italy, Spain, Germany, and France. Now, again, Italy and Spain were two of the hardest hit countries. I believe they were two of the hardest hit countries in Europe. And yet we have doctors saying now, yeah, the cases are virtually disappearing. The virus is much less of a threat, and yet we're still sitting around here pretending like this is the doomsday virus. Like, I don't get it. And there has to be ulterior motives going on. And the problem is figuring out exactly what the ulterior motives are. In a nutshell, the government wants to, I mean, they always want to sow discord. The government, they love doing that. The mainstream media loves doing that because it's great for ratings. It helps them out because people just beg the government for more laws and regulations. Like, oh, we got to prevent racism. Like you got Justin Trudeau out here talking about, oh, we got to end racism, even though you've been prime minister for 5 years. You've had a majority almost the whole time, and you could easily get the NDP to go along with any crap you want to implement. Like, why have you waited so long? If racism is this huge issue, why have you waited 5 years? I mean, one or two, yeah, maybe, but five, you could have easily done things right now. So stop pretending. This is the thing that I really can't stand about these people is that an incredibly low percent of the population are actually racist. And the way to, I mean, the way to make the problem worse too is to do exactly what they're doing. Like, if you want to make the racist people look bad, which is the only way to get them to change their mind, is to prove to them that whatever race they're racist against doesn't fit into the negative stereotype that they claim to fit into. The problem is that what a lot of these people are doing just fits into the negative, is just, I wouldn't say proving, but in some ways proving. Not that it makes racism okay in any way, shape, or form. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm talking about from the actual racist perspective, just imagining that, okay, well, what do they think? They think that they're superior. They think that, blacks are, you know, gangbangers, whatever you want to call it, like that, the traditional negative black stereotype, which is true to an extent, um, true on average, not true as individuals. And the problem is that, well, guess what? Does the black community look better or worse from this? And the one thing I want to point out too is that I do commend the Floyd guy's brother. He came out in the news yesterday and said, we don't want violence. Violence isn't the way to honor my brother. So I commend him for that, but the people aren't listening. Like, and again, too, this just goes to show that these people have ulterior motives. That if they actually cared about racism, would they not listen to the guy's brother? Like, he's obviously black. He would, if anybody can speak for him, now that he's dead, it would probably be his brother. So again, listen to him. Stop looting, and let's talk things out. Like, the problem is that, getting back to the racist whole thing, is that this just proves their argument more right. That, oh, well, blacks are uncivilized and gangbangers and all this kind of stuff, and he's they're proving them right. Whoever the racist guy is, and that's the problem, is that I don't want that. The only way to make the racist guy go away is to make the racist guy's beliefs look stupid. And the problem is that they're not doing that right now. Like the way to make the racist guy go away is to show that, hey, black people are just as civilized as everybody else. There's no difference between them. Problem is that that's not the case right now. So again, if you claim to care, then you should be spending all of your time not talking about, oh, racism has no place in our country and your virtue signaling BS. You should be spending all your time saying, hey, all you people committing violence, which it isn't this fringe minority like a lot of people are pretending. I wish that were the case, but it isn't. It's not a fringe minority. If it is, then why is there rioting and looting going on in hundreds of cities, literally hundreds of cities across North America, mostly in the States, obviously. And it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. And that's the problem too, um, that's the problem is that if the government steps in, then the people are just going to take that as, hey, oh, this is true, this is fact that the cops do have it out for us, and things are just going to get worse. If they do nothing, well, then billions, maybe tens of billions of dollars in property damage is going to be done, which is just going to hurt the black community most because that'll mean less money and resources left over to help themselves because the government has to pay to fix up all these properties that they damage. The insurance companies are going to have to charge people more because they got to pay out all the businesses that have been looted and destroyed. So again, if you actually care about the black community and helping racism, then you would spend all your time talking about how bad these protests, or the not peaceful protests, perfectly fine and well, but the violent looting is drowning that out. Um, and like I say, let's not pretend that it's this fringe minority of people that are looting because it isn't. And that's the problem too, is that the one thing that we can all agree on is that we need to we should be taking steps to improve the I hate using the word black community because it's really everybody is affected by it, but if you want to call it that, but the only way to improve that is to stop wasting so much money on other stuff and stop wasting money on stuff that isn't working. And that's the problem too, is that we continue to go around in circles. And until we stop doing that, nothing's going to change. So this is from ABC News. Now, this is something I pointed out. I just wanted to bring it up again. So, over 4,500 virus patients sent to New York nursing homes. Now, this is why New York was hit so bad. This is part of the reason why Ontario and Quebec were hit so hard, that the government completely botched this situation. This is one of the reasons why Italy was hit so hard. And Italy, I mean, it should have been obvious. Like, if we're the government, we should be looking at other countries and be like, hey, this country got hit really hard. What do we think caused this country to get hit so hard? One of the reasons was the nursing home situation, yet we completely ignored it. So again, the reason why the virus has got so bad is because, I mean, it isn't even that bad. I mean, it would have been literally an afterthought if the government wouldn't have completely botched the situation in every way, shape, and form. Was because the government screwed up. It was because the government screwed up. No other reasons. So basically, Twitter announced the other day that they're going to start increasing their quote unquote fact checking of people on Twitter, basically, and by that they're saying we're going to start fact checking right wingers for opinions we don't like, basically. And Paul Joseph Watson links to the WHO tweet from January 14th saying, "Oh, no evidence of human to human transmission." Like I say, is this tweet going to get fact checked because everybody knows it's wrong now? But because Twitter is so biased, and again they're openly biased, the head of fact checking and or whatever you want to call it is very openly biased against Trump and conservatives. Like it's so blatantly obvious, it's not even funny. I mean, they literally admit it. The easiest way to tell if someone's biased is if they literally admit it, and the guy does. Um, and yet nobody seems to care. It's just, oh, we're gonna fact check Trump opinion tweets, which is one of the first ones they fact checked. Was it Trump literally saying his opinion? It wasn't he didn't say this is 100% factional. No, it was his opinion, and they fact checked it with an opinion. Basically, they linked to an opinion article to fact check an opinion. That just goes to show just how crazy these people are. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is from Tony Heller here. Now he points out a good graph, and that you continuously hear people saying, "Oh, the Spanish flu, the second wave was the worst one, and therefore the second wave is going to be the worst one here." Even though, like, I mean, you look at the first wave of the virus, and it hardly even registers on the graph. Like the quote unquote second wave literally was 100 times. I don't know if it was exactly, but it looks like 100 times worse than the first wave. So even if the second wave is slightly worse than the first, it still doesn't even register compared to the Spanish flu. So please stop comparing it to that, and point out how idiotic people are to compare the two when you see those kind of people. So anyway, if you like the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Check out my PayPal and email, got linked in the description. Again, appreciate any donations. At the very least, just hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. And last couple things, as always, check me out on Twitter if you haven't already, and check me out on BitChute as well. Again, all the links are in the description, so you can find them all there.